Hello. You're listening to What the Fuck Do We Know? School. That's an interesting place to be. Children.
Horrible.
Children, an unfortunate group of people to be
to be a part of.
Yes, because let's talk about, children and who makes decisions for children. A big conversation now in the Western world probably, or in the US maybe, is about what is taught in schools. It's hugely on the ballot in the US this year with the election. What is taught in schools? Who decides what information is right for children to
give me some context. Is it mostly related to religion?
No, well, now there's religion and then there's race as well. Some schools where the government, there's a state in the US, I don't remember which, I think it's Alabama, but I'm not sure. I just use Alabama because I think that's the most south thing, But
Texas.
Anyway,
I think Texas is southern.
Maybe. But anyway, they have this thing where they have a display of the 10 Commandments in the school. And they do the Bible and they teach the Bible now in schools there, in a town there in one of the states. But so that's an example of things like deciding what is best for the child. The government is making those decisions. Or parents. Or is it okay for the government?
Or kids?
Well, that's another conversation because our kids, at what age are kids mature enough to make decisions for themselves? But also, let's start from the government. Where does the government's hand end? Where can the government reach into? Like, we have education, we have other things. People talk about bodies, abortions. Leave me and leave my body. But the government does have to make legislation for your body to be free, etc., etc.
But I think that when it comes to government versus, when it comes to my personal opinions, first of all, when it comes to government versus an adult, this is a very different conversation compared to government, adult, and parent. So this is it becomes a triangle because
government, adult, and parent.
No, government, adult.
And
this is two. This is different from the triangle of government, kid, and parent.
Kid, you said adult.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, kid and parent, and then because you have the state interest, you have parental rights and you have child rights. And then this shit is much more complicated because for me, adult and state, for me, it's much simpler. If it doesn't hurt anyone, I think that you should be allowed to do it, more or less. We can go in detail. There is. It's hard. There is some gray area there. But if it doesn't directly hurt anyone, and there's still a gray area, for instance, vaccination, but it's much simpler compared to kids.
Stop vaccination. What do you mean, for instance, vaccination?
No, because it's not like you don't directly hurt someone.
Who do you hurt by getting vaccinated?
No, you potentially hurt yourself. But
by
also
getting vaccinated? Or
not getting vaccinated.
Okay, that's
but also then
I thought I was about to find out that you are anti-vax.
Well, it's never too late. But then you also indirectly hurt others. So that's why I mentioned that it's direct. It's also, there is gray area there. But when it comes to kids, parents, this is for me much more difficult because I think this is there is a common consensus that kids don't have enough agency to make their own decisions, and this agency, it increases throughout the development.
What creates agency?
I mean, agency, first of all, I think it's just a human-made concept.
Right, because sure, there is a lot of changes in our biology, physiology.
And it's not that there is just a line when you're you get agency.
Right, and we have decided that 18 is that age, but there is no proof that at 18 somehow you become so mentally developed that your maturity is consolidated at 18. But we decided that it's 18.
But I would also, in defense of the society, I would say that there is also more nuance because there are different things that are allowed from different ages.
Okay.
Some things are allowed from 18, sometimes things are allowed from 21.
In different societies.
in different societies, but even within one society. Like
Tell
I
me
think
what's allowed from 18
in the US, okay, this I might be wrong, but in the US you can only drink from 21.
Yes.
Then the
You
age of
can-
consent
Is
is 18.
And the age
One.
for driving is 16.
Okay, here we go. You see, team effort. So there is some differentiation. However, yes, there is no clear-cut line. But we have to do something because obviously, like when it's a baby, you can't ask the baby, hey,
What do you want?
who are you voting for? Or like, hey, do you want drugs?
Honestly, we can just like.
Do you want
put-
to change your sex?
I think we can just like put babies in the like
Incubate and
voting.
forget.
No, in the voting
And they're like,
box,
"Ooh."
and just like tell them to like play, and they just like put anybody.
And they will listen.
But I mean, should we think until a time when you can sort of like, so to speak, make decisions?
How do you know? Okay, because
Like a 2-year-old is just kind of like following whims. They're not really making decisions. They're just kind of like going.
yeah,
going,
okay,
right?
there is some.
There is like there's an age where you do achieve critical
but it's
thinking.
individual.
Yes. So we have to do a test for everybody.
But then we can't. I mean, there are some
No, we can
psychological tests.
approximate it.
We can, yes.
approximate it, but there
But
is
that's
an
kind of
age.
difficult.
Not necessarily. We do polls all the times, which you love.
Paul, I mean,
We can have samples and we can
I will not
test
go
them
there.
out, but whatever.
so- a
I'm
poll,
not a
like
poll
what kind of?
person.
I'm sorry. No, I'm fine with psychological tests, but you mentioned polls.
No,
Like,
I
do you
mean
expect
polls
to
because
have
like we
polls
can. I mean,
for kids?
No, we can do like we can get a sample, some kind of cross section.
No, but it's individual. You need to
No,
know
but they will be,
what is the
there
age
will-
of this particular.
There will be reoccurring things.
No. Okay,
in the
we
w-
have that.
with
And
humans,
based on
we
that,
have
we decided
that,
it's 18.
yes.
I thought you wanted to make
No,
it
but
more
we didn't-
individualized.
No. What do you mean 18? Because like when we say 18, teenagers have achieved critical thinking before 18. And
Well,
when you get
it
to
takes
18,
time to get adjusted.
when you get to 18, it doesn't really change anything from when you're 16.
Any age doesn't
except
change
what
anything.
society tells you. No. There's a difference between 6 and 18.
No, sure,
definitely.
but there is no difference between 6 and 7 years old.
No,
Because
there isn't.
the-
But this is the thing: so first of all, 18 is not special. It's not like we did some kind of like. I think that maybe 18 was chosen, honestly, based on the physical. In terms of development, a lot of development happens within 16 and 20. And I think that, physical development, sexual characteristics, you look like an adult. And I think that's why people settled on 18 as the age of like maturity for most people. It's based on the physical, because girls really some girls much
18.
earlier. No, not 18, but between 16 and 20, you are at the peak of expression of physical characteristics as an adult, between 16 and 20. Yes. And I think they must have chosen like the middle.
I think that, yes, people, it's not like
Not
scientifically
you.
proven.
You was 25
sure.
or what? Or maybe not
I
yet.
am a late bloomer.
You're a never bloomer.
Late bloomer. Okay, another conversation. I think it's good.
Okay, sure.
No, I agree that people haven't like scientifically proved it or anything. But also I think that we kind of started from the middle, because this 18 years old, this is a new things that we came up with.
Yeah,
I guess
recent.
like second part of 20th century, more or less.
Yeah.
But before it was like, during the medieval ages, since you can work the land, you're already a grown up. Basically.
Yes, no, but I think that we're trying to figure out a way to consider people like when we would be comfortable with hurting them.
Hurting them, but you can hurt underage people. Like you can put
No,
them
like,
in
but
prison.
when we would be comfortable with like hurting them with capitalism. I didn't finish my sentence.
Capitalism.
Yes.
So the age when it's appropriate
When
to
it's
like
appropriate,
throw out the
yes.
child from your house.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
And we were thinking, I think most people were like, okay, let's look at them. And at what age do they not seem like too puny or too little?
It is a digression, but I want to talk about it. I hear it quite often watching YouTube videos, obviously. But like people saying, I can't wait till my child gets 18 for them to move out.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly don't understand it. Like why did you get a child just to wait for them to grow old enough to move out? What is the point of this entire project?
Why did you get a child?
No, what is the point of this entire project? Like, you were burdened with a child and now you're just waiting. It's like you're serving a sentence and you're waiting for it to be over.
First of all, I don't think like they are like thinking like that. They just recognize that it's a lot of work.
But why 18? Is they just, oh yeah,
because
you're
they
done.
go to college.
My job is done.
No, they go to college usually.
You can go college earlier or later.
Not in many countries. In many countries, it's 18 where you go to university.
Okay, but it's not like exactly 18.
No, yeah, but it's around that time. People don't just go like, oh, you must go at 18.
And then like, okay, in the US, it's quite popular, I think, to pay rent to your parents. If you,
which is like, I think it's a mean thing. If I moved in with my parents and they're like, pay me rent, I'd be like, no.
If you move...
If I moved in with my parents and they asked me to pay rent, I'd say no.
I would
because you fucking brought me into this shit.
That's one good reason.
Like, what?
That's one good reason. But also, like, what does it say about your, like, relationship? Like,
well, I mean, if your parents don't have money, why should they take care of you?
No, if it is... Wait, look, if your parents don't have money,
flip-flopping all the way.
if your family doesn't have money, then like it would make sense not to pay rent, because rent is like very transactional. You pay certain amount of money. You should just have a common budget,
right?
Just
I agree.
To be able to sustain your household.
But maybe they feel like it's their responsibility to take care of you, so they just need you to pay.
But it just okay. I think I don't think relatively
it's
transactional person compared to other people.
You are very transactional.
But
our friendship is very transactional.
From your side.
From your side, I give you my heart, wholeheartedly.
I accept it without any payment.
For a lot. For a lot.
So you are transactional because you expect a lot for what you're delivering.
I give you my heart and I expect you to give me your heart.
That's a lot.
You see,
my heart is
you're
bigger.
Mean.
So I feel like I'm a relatively transactional person. I think it's a cultural difference, honestly. But like specifically when it comes to the US. But
that's
like for me,
attack.
I would just know why.
I'm kidding.
You're not from the US. It's irrelevant. So I just don't understand. Like, it's like how, like, for my parents to charge me rent, I can't imagine how bad our relationships would have to be. It's like they would, I just can't imagine. It would be like really bad. I can't
imagine doing it to my children if I have any. And I can't imagine my parents doing it to me. I'd just be shocked.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know what we would do, like how we would talk when it's time for rent, to just be like, here you go.
But it's like you don't talk. It's like you've talked to your child many times that you want them to move out. I think it's like some kind of
motivation for them to go.
Yeah, I
think honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you, I think that it's mean. I think that it's a horrible thing for parents who can afford it. Well, even if you made a good point, even if you cannot afford it, like, why don't you just put your money together and live together?
Yeah.
Then ask them to pay rent. I think that it's mean. Also, I think parents who say to their children, you have to go out of the house, you're 25, you're 30 or whatever, they're mean as well. Motherfucker, it's hard out here. It is hard. Like, the world in some places, it's harder to get jobs. It's harder to survive. Life is expensive. If your child needs help, you brought your child. And don't tell me about like facilitating your child's laziness. You brought this person. Don't leave them stranded because you want to teach a lesson. Don't even get me started on billionaires who die and don't give their children money. Fuck you.
No, okay, there are 2 points. First, I was ready to argue on the first point.
What?
I don't know. Now I don't know which one to argue. Okay. Like leaving your kids stranded.
10 toes on the billionaire shit. Fuck you. If you are a billionaire who has decided to leave your children with nothing, fuck you.
I don't want to. I think it's 100%
Screw
normal. You. Especially if they give them good education. I'm sorry, like you are given much more than an average person.
I agree, yes.
So why why do you expect more? Why are you entitled to more
I don't think you're
resources?
entitled to more
Why-
resources. I
so-
don't think it's an entitlement thing. I just think that it is nice. That's all.
I could see myself. Okay.
Why should I grow up with this like expanse of wealth and then you just take it away from me one day?
What if you don't grow up? What if they don't raise you in this fluency, abundance?
Then they're even more mean. So they have money and they decide not to give me.
Yeah, they don't want to spoil you.
Oh, fuck you.
I could see myself doing that.
I'm sorry.
But coming back,
You're not gonna have children. I won't allow it.
we'll see. Coming back to leaving your kids stranded. What if these kids? What if they spent the entire time playing video games and they're like 25? They're not trying to move out. They're not trying to get a job and getting paid. Would you have a problem with that?
I would, and I would try to force them to get a job, not kick them out on the street. I just wouldn't abandon my child. I'm sorry. I don't think that I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I think that there's a lot of complexities. I think that, yes, there are many people who become lazy. I will rather just try hard to find a way to inspire this child to do something with their fucking life than just throw them out on the street, because I brought this child into the world. They didn't need to be there.
I agree.
I have that
I
responsibility.
think there is a limit.
I'm sorry. I think I agree. I don't know what the limit is for me.
Okay,
But I know that
my limit.
Well, I know that I will never kick out my child, except they were serial killer
Okay, my
or
limit.
pedophile. So yeah, that's
My
limit.
limit
That's my
would
limit.
be
Pedophilia and serial killing. I mean,
That's
one
not my
one
limit.
murder is just okay.
actually. That's not my limit.
No,
My
I'll send my
limit-
child to prison happily
Or would
if they
you
commit a crime.
send them send money or food?
Yeah,
prison?
work
Okay.
on their rehabilitation. But if they commit a crime, they're going to prison. Then.
Oh, it's impossible. I
If
don't
they're
think you can be
serial killers,
rehabilitated.
If they're serial killers,
From
I
us.
won't be doing none of that because I don't want them to come and kill me later.
I would
like
be a
them to
better
sit
parent.
there.
Let me tell you that. I would be a better
I
parent.
like them to sit there.
But for me, the line would be entitlement. If someone is, why did you roll your eyes back? This is the line. If you're
Back where?
an
I
adult,
rolled it around. No, there's
if
nothing
you're
back.
an adult and you don't have a plan and you only feel that you can do whatever you do, you don't invest in your life at all because
We've
you feel
strayed so far
entitled.
from our
we
topic.
did. I'm trying to get us back, but on tango you have to go the same path backwards. You have to. Where was I?
As an adult,
If you can only allow this life, you can only allow to feel and experience this life the way you experience it because you feel entitled that I will provide for you.
and let me say this, first of all, I think that it is a
Right.
failure. It is a failure
Right.
on your part as a parent.
It is. But
That your
sometimes it gets
child-
to that. I would definitely consider it my failure.
Yes,
But
good.
then
You have to accept that you failed as a parent.
I accept that I failed, but now you accept that you're
still
losing your
wouldn't
finger,
cut,
but you have
honestly.
to cut off
I
your
still
finger.
wouldn't cut off my child. I would just find another way. I don't know. I just don't want to. Maybe I'll reduce help, definitely.
You reduce it
Try
and then you
to,
build a plan,
but
and
I will
1
not
year in
keep-
advance,
one thing I
you're
will
going
not
out
do.
in 1 year.
One thing I will not do is kick them out of my home. I'll never do that. But I
Okay.
really don't think that. So I think that I'm responsible for the child, but I don't think that it's my. I don't know. I just really feel that it's mean, honestly, in my
Okay.
opinion.
We started with a state adult relationship, then state kid parent relationship.
Let's talk about the state making decisions for parents and who has the rights over children. Let's get there.
I think it ties in with one of our first episodes on knowledge.
Yeah, when we talked about schools, right?
Yeah, because
Well, let's expand it outside of schools about what a child should learn. But let's talk about feeding,
generally,
right? Nutrition,
kids' rights,
and
using violence to educate your children.
violence,
Well, I mean,
Oh my God.
physical violence.
corporal punishment, using violence.
Okay,
Like,
okay,
the parents are-
sorry, I'm
oh
not a
my
native
God.
speaker.
No, it's not that. You're just saying it as if the parents are fighting with their children.
I mean, it is
Well,
violence
I have seen
technically.
situations where, I'll be honest with you, I was talking about this to someone recently. I've seen situations where parents were handling their children, and I was like, oh my God, do you hate this person? The way you're hitting your child. Do you hate them? So,
But I think that that's also one of the explanations is what we discussed in the previous episodes, that you were hit and now it's like that's how you teach your child. I was taught like that, now you're going to be taught like that.
But let's talk about the state things. And now, who decides what is dangerous for a child? Because often, like, in some developed countries, they have these services that take children away from
child
parents.
protection services, yeah.
When they believe that it is a danger for the child.
I think it's like a very fine line. It's like it's impossible to say that this is where it is. Because I feel like, at least as of now, there is a common consensus that state shouldn't involve too far in the education of children.
This is, I think,
not
part
education,
of the reason
in
why...
parental, in parenting.
Okay.
However, it's also, I think, a consensus that there are some cases when states should interfere, like really severe, like physical abuse or like sexual abuse, etc. So I don't really think there is, like, I want to say scientific way to solve this problem, but like even a moral way to solve this problem. It is, I mean, I think it's a problem of culture.
What about what the child wants?
Oh, that's the thing.
So a lot of times, like, children are taken away from parents, right, by the government. And the parents are what I would call a danger. For example, alcoholics, and they are physically, like, abusive, right? But the child still does care for the parent, and the child wants to have a parent, regardless of in what condition the parent is.
Yeah, why does it become too bad?
Yes. Isn't it also, in a way that we want to save the child, what are we doing in terms of traumatizing the child by taking away a parent that they actually kind of have an affection for? Also, like, what if the child says, I want to be with my parent?
But also, do they have an agency to decide?
That's a thing, because
to make that decision.
Regardless,
they might be
an emotional. Yes, it is an emotional situation for the child, nevertheless, and their decisions are very emotionally guided, right? So, but they say they want to be with their parent, and you take them away forcefully and you throw them into foster care, but they want to be home. Are you hurting the child? And the government does do that.
Okay, I don't have a developed opinion on this.
I don't think
matter.
Neither.
No, because I mean, okay, one
because
thing
we don't have children.
We don't have children. Also, we haven't studied developmental psychology. What? This is what you need to study.
Oh my God.
This is what you need to study,
sure.
Right? I haven't. So I think that when you don't know the answer, you need to direct the fields of study or like the questions that have to be answered before you decide on the question.
That was nonsense. And you say Biden is in cognitive decline. Your sentence didn't make any sense at all. You should get out of this place. You should drop out of humanity.
Drop out of humanity. Oh my God. But it's a very difficult problem.
I agree.
And that's why it's just like, I think there should be some gray area, and we should give the government the benefit of the doubt to some extent.
Well, we chose the government in a democracy, so
we choose it, but this is like usually not on the agenda.
No.
And it's hard to get into the details because all situations are so like specific, so individual. So I think that's where you have like the social workers, and they have to make subjective decisions on case by case basis.
Okay, let's move on a bit. Abortion. So it's very common when people say pro-choice, pro-life, right? Pro-lifers want to make policy and laws that restrict abortion in different states and different governments, right? And pro-choice people want people to be able to choose. Now, an interesting thing I thought about recently was that pro-choice people often say, I don't want the government to make decisions of what I do with my body. Nevertheless, they're asking the government to make a decision that it's fine for them to do whatever they want to do.
No,
that's what the government does. The government makes it legal to have it.
No, the government doesn't make it illegal, because like according to all constitutions,
no, but you see the thing is
democratic
that what
and liberal
was
constitutions.
Before?
No, according to all liberal constitutions, you can do whatever is not forbidden. That's the basic principle against all liberal constitutions.
So what was before in a system? For example, in Nigeria, let's think of Nigeria. It is illegal to have an abortion right now.
Okay.
So if the government gets in there and does it, the government will make it legal.
It doesn't allow it to do. It doesn't. It's not that
The
it allows it to
government will
do.
reverse
It
the
doesn't
illegality, making it legal to
makes
do what
it
you want to do with your
legal.
body.
So yes, but there is a very big difference between. Oh, okay. Let's generalize it. When you say that, okay, I am able to do everything that is not forbidden, or I am able to do something that is on the list that the government allows me to do.
So look, there is a list of forbidden things, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's a list
Those
of
things
forbidden
that you
things.
don't
They are all
forbid, you
illegal.
don't allow.
They're all illegal
Okay.
in the government. And then one day, the government says, now this thing is no more illegal anymore, making it legal.
Okay.
There is a way to argue with me with the abortion thing. What you could say is that what the government does is the government enforces the constitutions, the liberal constitution, with regards to abortion. Then I would agree with you that it is not making it
No, but you're
legal.
basically saying that they changed the interpretation of.
No. The government just enforces the wording of the constitution.
The previous interpretation of the constitution was wrong.
No. Yes. Whatever people have interpreted, it was wrong, and the government decides that okay, this is actually what this constitution is saying.
But do you understand
And
my point?
Yes, I do. I just thought you argued it wrongly, and that's why.
No, I think my point is
I just thought you
it's
didn't
much
argue
more
it very
important
strong.
because
I just think you didn't argue what I think I was wrong, but you just didn't argue well.
no, it's just your argument is more narrow. I think
What do you
it's
mean?
more
It's
about
more
the general
narrow.
principle that you are allowed to do whatever is not forbidden
Yes,
by
and what
the
you should have said to
legislation.
me is that what happened is not that the
But
government.
I don't care
made it-
about the American Constitution.
It's not about.
I
We're
don't
talking
care
about
about
liberal
Nigerian.
constitutions. We're not talking
But there are
about the
different
specific.
liberal constitutions.
But most of them have a thing that you have the right to your decisions. It's a core part of the
Yeah, but
of
it's-
liberal constitution. So when a government allows something like abortions, what the government is doing is enforcing the constitutions, the liberal
These
constitutions with
can
regards to
contradict
abortion.
itself. It's like when you have a constitution, all people are equal, but then somehow you have slavery. How does that happen?
Well, then it was unconstitutional.
but it's totally illegal.
And that is unconstitutional. And then what happens is that the government then says, okay, we're going to enforce the actual words of the Constitution that all men are equal by taking away slavery.
Okay, it's a digression, but I just feel like legislation is a derivative of people's values. People have
Yes, it
values
is.
and then they just create legislation. They say it's a law and whatever, everyone should follow it. But like that's not what matters. What matters is values. What matters is the philosophical, like ethical system behind it. Ethical system behind it. Anyway,
Okay.
abortions.
Okay.
What was your point? Sorry.
With abortion, I have a same thing. I'm pro-choice, and I think you should have
Me too.
the right to do whatever you want to do, especially. And honestly,
you should be
when
able
it comes
to kill
to
babies. I agree.
when it comes to abortions, honestly, I don't have even this. It's a very common consideration of like, what about the man? Honestly, I think that he was part of the process, but he's not going to carry that thing for 9 months. I think that the burden is so highly and so much more on the side of the carrier of this child that burden and that life change, and it's a syndrome, pregnancy, and that means it's a complex.
Is it a syndrome?
Yes,
Medically
it's
speaking.
a syndrome.
Okay.
Yes, it's a complex of symptoms that are so horrible for the person experiencing it that I really don't think it matters what the man wants to say in this case. I am there. I feel like it's 100% a decision of a woman. A lot of people say, and her doctor. I don't even know what the doctor So the doctor, only because like the doctor can make a decision, can tell the woman like about this decision
Threats.
when she's in danger, that it is better for her to get an abortion. Otherwise, I will just say like it is the decision of a woman.
I agree with
Because she's
all of
carrying
those.
that shit for like 9. It's a huge change that the man will never experience. And you will tell me it's a personal attack, probably.
No,
but-
why?
Because you said it was personal attack. when you
No,
said
it's
it.
not a personal attack. No, okay.
Oh my god.
Okay, wait.
Oh my god. Okay,
Okay.
whatever.
Let's move on. No, but we are not moving on. But I can defend this stance. I agree that as of now, there is no good solution that as of now, the way that the burden is distributed, it's like it should be up to women. However, I do think that we should recognize that men should have some say in it. In an ideal world, it's just that there is no good way. It's like we should recognize
in a world where the men and the women share the pregnancy 4.5.
No, in a world where, for instance, a woman can carry a baby for like, I don't know, 1 month and then just
transfer it to the man.
No, it's just like there would be an incubator or something. What? There could be that world. It's not that unrealistic. I'm sorry. We already have incubators that can carry babies.
That's not
from
why
6
I did
months.
that. No, because
it's just that. I personally, I'm not worried about my interests here because I don't give a shit about small babies. I don't even consider them humans. If I might be that bold, but it's just I know that some people are religious. For instance, I imagine a religious man who wants a child for whom killing a child is a very, very bad sin.
He should get with a woman who wants a child.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. I'm going there.
This is the thing. No. Okay.
I'm good. And like, if you meet someone and if it's a one-night stand, sorry, you don't have any obligations to give that man a child. But if it is, for instance, some kind of maybe contractual obligation, if you got married, and then like you decide that you don't want to have a child when you agree to have a child, unless there is a very good reason, like physical violence, for instance, or if it was a product of rape, then I could see how a religious person could argue that, hey, I did everything that I did the right thing. We had an agreement. We were married. There was a consent to have a baby, and now she wants to terminate the pregnancy without my consent. Is that fair?
Okay, so first of all, a marriage does not imply that a child is going to come from it.
Okay, you agree.
Second,
you agree with
yes, but there's so many things that we agree with and we change our minds because that's how life works.
Well, is there a good reason for that?
Yes, she might have agreed. I'm sorry, I think that just not wanting to be pregnant is a good enough reason for not wanting to carry a baby. Okay. It is a horrible thing.
It is, but you have to think in advance.
I say horrible because I look at it, but it is a very stressful thing. And a lot of people do think that they'll enjoy it because there is some kind of pregnancy propaganda in the world. And so a lot of people think that they'll enjoy it, but it is a very big undertaking. And so if a woman realizes that I don't think I'm ready for this shit,
but I think it's fine. To carry some responsibility if they agree to it. I mean, we have a lot of contractual relationships.
If they signed a contract, I'll give you this. If they signed a contract, yes, because it's a legally binding.
So maybe we should have something like that.
So maybe we start that, yes, a baby contract, yes. Then I would say it's a legally binding term. Otherwise, I'm sorry.
It's a very specific case. I agree.
It's such a difficult task to carry something like that for 9 months. Honestly, it fucks you up. Jesus. And we've gone so far away.
Okay, state. But related to state, for me, it's a no-brainer, honestly. Okay, when it comes to baby, as you've noticed, I don't care about babies. So, for me, a grown-up adult is just the value of a grown-up adult who has self-consciousness, who has a personality, who has experience, who is, I would go as far as saying a real human, because this is what we value humans for consciousness, free will, self-awareness, etc. Babies don't have that shit.
Well, yeah.
They can't recognize themselves in a mirror. So, for me, I prioritize adults.
I
not only women, just adults generally speaking.
Well.
And for the state to intervene, it's just, for me, it's just even from the state perspective, it doesn't make sense. Because
so you don't think the state should intervene in the lives of adults?
To the extent that that their decisions don't hurt other people, or at least don't hurt directly. But
other adults or
anyone.
Okay.
So children, that's why it's more complicated with children.
Checking.
Because I do think that government should intervene in some cases to protect kids because they don't have agency.
Okay.
So this is a big difference. But we want to talk about paternalism.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about it, aren't we?
We are. Okay, let's go to the definition of paternalism.
What is the definition of paternalism?
This fan, you're a fan. Okay.
Yes, I'm fanning myself because it's fucking hot in here that we have to close all the fucking windows because...
For the good sound, for the listeners, and for our editor.
Okay.
Because
I
we
hope
are
they appreciate
caring
this
people.
because
So caring.
I am sweating my non-existent tits off.
Oh, they're very much existent.
I don't have tits.
You have very beautiful tits.
Thank you.
Paternalism. So I think let's go easy because we're drunk.
You are drunk. I'm not drunk.
You're sweating.
Don't put me in the same box with you. I'm a very well-functioning person.
I wanna feel that I belong to a community.
Not my community of sober people, you alcoholic, please.
Paternalism,
Okay.
restriction of personal freedoms or autonomy for the purpose of elevating the individual good of their own good.
Well, as you think, as the state thinks, or as the other person thinks.
Yes, exactly.
But remember, we saw an extra, what's it called? Addendum
To
a
what?
definition. Remember?
I didn't see any addendum.
I read it to you.
Okay, you didn't say it was an addendum.
Well, it is an addendum
Okay, go
right
ahead.
now that the person who is experiencing the paternalism should prefer to not be treated that way. You don't want it, but it is something that has been written.
I don't want to talk
and if it
about
has been
semantics. We
written,
don't have
oh
semantics.
my God. Why is that part not relevant to you?
No, just relevant.
Okay.
Just relevant. It's just like it's a question about semantics, right? What is covered by the definition, what is not covered by the definition. And like this paternalism, it does have several definitions.
But let's talk about paternalism. So when we elect government officials, we elect them to make decisions that we don't want to be involved in every step of the way because we decide that, right? I don't know. Am I wrong? We decide that there are a lot of decisions that need to be made in a city, in a government, in a state. And we don't want to be so much involved in every step of every decision. So we choose people who we believe represent our values, right? Or our interests. And we choose them and we trust them to make those decisions on our behalf. So we give them the right to be paternalistic, don't we? In our democratic systems as they exist now.
Well, to some extent, yes. But that depends on how deep you want to go. Because, okay, if we have administration, like a city administration, a person is responsible for collecting trash. Like technically, you give them the right to decide what is the better way to collect trash. But would you call it paternalism? I wouldn't.
For the trash, yes, because the trash doesn't choose.
No. For trash, yeah, sure. But for us, you don't know what is the best way to collect trash.
Even for us, yes, because the person has decided that they know the best way to collect trash. So
within the specific limits of collecting trash, they have authority,
exactly,
and expertise to make that decision for us.
We have chosen people to be paternalistic towards us. By choosing a government, by electing officials, we say, make the decisions I am not able to go through or making because I don't have expertise or whatever.
But according to this definition, we make it really, really, really narrow, because then even a manager, what's the word? Outsourcing. What's the word? Jesus Christ! When you outsource some activity to another person, delegating something to your employee, you subordinate. You allow them to be paternalistic. They're being paternalistic about that particular task that you give them, because you're not going into detail how they solve this task. You just give them that task.
You give them the right to make decisions on that task.
Yeah. So isn't that paternalism?
I mean, if the task is some kind of human, but
no, it's like I give you do this thing, And like usually as a manager,
If you
if
say
delegate,
like I
don't say
delegate this
how
to you
do
and
it.
I say like make the decision on
There's
what's
still some
best.
leeway.
If I say make the decision on what's best for this, like for the success of
this
this
is the goal.
it's paternalism.
But like
yes.
that's why I don't like
It's
this.
like doctors, going like making decisions for patients based on like what they think is best for patients, rather than consulting patients because they cannot or something like that. Yeah, they can go to family members or whatever, but like in surgery, a doctor needs to make a quick decision and they make the decision for the patient. That is paternalism as well, because they choose what they believe is better.
I agree that thing is usually called paternalism, but like this thing that I mentioned, manager versus subordinate, that is not usually called paternalism.
Yeah, I mean, not called doesn't mean it isn't.
Well, then like the definition is too broad. But like coming back to doctors,
Okay.
like one interesting thing that I read recently was learned actually, therapeutic privilege.
That you learned recently, or that you heard, what
Like
did you
learned about.
Oh, okay.
And that's quite interesting. That as far as I understood, therapeutic privilege means, and it's like it's not in all countries, but in some countries, that you can basically not disclose some information to your patient if you think that will hurt the treatment.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Is that common?
Yeah, I think in many cases, yes, it is common.
Can you give me an example?
Well, I don't know necessarily. I think that people do it. Well, I don't think that it's very common in Europe. I'm not sure, because they're quite like liberal in many countries. And I don't think that it might be that common in very, very liberal countries, but I don't know. But like if a patient's if you feel that a patient's emotional state will be a hindrance to their treatment, you can withhold information from them and you can argue.
Forever?
No, I mean, as long as the treatment is done. But of course, you put yourself in a dangerous position where you can
be sued.
Yes.
That's what I read, that it's like doctors do not like exercise this.
Yeah, because you put yourself in a situation where you can be sued. But if it comes to the treatment of your patient and you do understand, typically doctors will, not typically, sorry, like sometimes doctors will withhold information because they know, honestly, I think that they do it only when they are quite certain of how much of a danger it will pose to the patient's recovery. But in many cases, I think that they do inform next of kin. Not the patient, but next of kin.
I think that poses like an interesting moral dilemma. Like another case, another example I've been thinking of is, imagine a psychologist, right? And it's a secular psychologist who doesn't believe in supernatural things. And then imagine that they're communicating with someone who believes in supernatural things, and they believe that, they're trying to treat a child, and their parents believe that the child is possessed by a devil. And like
by demon, the devil is
whatever.
Too easy for.
Sorry, I don't know the details.
Possessing children. Oh my God, it's
a special child. So anyway, as a psychologist, like one opinion that I've heard is that as a psychologist, you just have to fit in and you just have to go along with what the parents say.
Yeah, you cannot spend time.
You should say that you should do your job, whatever you think works the best from the consequentialist perspective. But you just should pretend, oh yes, they are possessed, and let me actually do something that will get rid of this demon.
It does not pay to try to prove them that they are wrong. It doesn't help at all in the treatment.
From consequentialist perspective, yes. But from like deontological perspective, like we have this idea that you have to
but the
get
thing
consent
is
and you have to be truthful with your patients.
But
right?
you can work. The thing is about, in many cases, the thing is you can actually help the patient without disclosing to them that you think that they're wrong or that they're wrong, because you can treat them regardless of what they think.
So I think this is the fundamental kind of trade-off in paternalism. So it's a trade-off between in ideal world, right? In ideal paternalism, the person that makes decisions, they actually know what is best, right? And they don't abuse it, and they actually know in an ideal world, in an ideal case situation. But then there is a trade-off between this welfare, which is basically like a consequentialist perspective, right? We are trying to maximize the welfare of humans or a specific person. versus their right to make decisions. And this is, I think, this is like a deontological perspective that you're like autonomy, right, has value. Like being able to make, everyone has to be able to make their own decisions about their life. And then you have to kind of solve the trade-off. And is there any kind of solution to that trade-off?
What do you mean what do you mean by solution?
No, I mean, how do you make that decision if you know that the person will be better off according to their own values?
Are you speaking in an ideal world?
I'm speaking of a world, ideal world, meaning that you actually know what the values are, and you actually know what is better according to their values.
Well, yeah, it's an easy trade-off. You just like make the decision if you know all of this information.
No, you know that, but there is this idea that
of like
you should have free will to decide. You should have autonomy over your life. You should know what is happening with you.
Personal, if you want my personal opinion, I do think that people should be informed. I don't like the discrete nature of these things. I don't like people making decisions for another person. I don't think that there's something such a thing as free will, but I think that we have all these processes that are like that act as like that make us feel actively involved in our life. And I think that in terms of like our society, it's taking away a huge part of people's values, a huge part of people's like personhood, is taking away their right, so to speak, to make decisions. And I don't think that no matter how much you know better, I don't think that you should take it away from the person.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you tell the person that the person doesn't want it, it is their decision, so to speak, and you will follow it. That's all. But I do see how it makes sense. If I were in a position where I thought that I knew better, I could see myself making a decision.
So as a doctor,
yes, I could see myself making a decision to.
So why would you make a decision against your values? Because you said that.
Because my goal would be like the recovery of the patient.
But you said that your values, that you prioritize this.
No, I do think
freedom of will, autonomy over.
I didn't say I prioritize it. I said I don't believe in freedom of will, but people do prioritize
autonomy.
it. Yes, I didn't say I prioritize it. I didn't say I said people.
Oh, people. Okay, sorry.
But no, even if I valued it, it doesn't really matter, because the goal of the doctor is not to uphold values, but it's to cure a patient, regardless of what their value is or what the patient. So
would you find doctors manipulating their patients into?
Doctors do it because they have to. A lot of patients have.
They don't have to.
Sometimes they can just leave their patients to go die. In a lot of cases, but the goal of a doctor mostly is to cure a patient. And of course, also it's important that the patient wants to be cured. It is important that the patient wants to be cured. You can't force someone. You can't force a person to be cured. But what I'm saying is that when
you can or you can't.
You can't. Okay. What I'm saying is that where I can allow it is just like, if I were a doctor, I could see myself doing it, because my goal would be just to cure the patient. Yes, it could cause me troubles, but I could see myself doing it.
So there are like different types of paternalism. And
I really wonder if I said my value is like I prioritize, because I don't think I said so.
No, I'm not sure if you actually said it, because I kind of was thinking about something else, but so I'm ready to accept that you didn't say it. Don't worry. So there are different types of paternalism. No, there are different types of paternalism, right? And how far can the government intervene, the state intervene? One kind of like line is that the government could intervene, but just to make sure that you know what you're doing. For instance, when you smoke, right? You can intervene to make sure that, hey, do you actually know that smoking leads to lung cancer or whatever? And then like, okay, if you do, keep smoking. It's not illegal. The other line is that even if they know what they're doing, and this is like, for instance, most of the drugs are just illegal. Like, people know what they're doing, but it's still illegal. You get punished for it. So what do you think, where the line should be?
Personally, I don't mind government reach, honestly, but the problem is that governments change, and values would change with the government. And my values, if they're I don't mind when the government is reaching to preserve my own values, but the government could change and then to be a problem. So in that case, I think that
Do you trust the government to know your values?
No, if I'm part of a democratic system
Yeah,
and the government in charge is the government that aligns most with my
vote for the
values.
government.
No, if I didn't vote for the government, then I'm in trouble. But if I did vote for the government that's in charge, then it most represents my values. So,
but
that's why I said government.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah, that's why I said government
Okay,
change.
got
That's
it.
a problem.
Okay, so what do you think the general rule should be?
Nevertheless, yes, the general rule is advice, not necessarily like enforcement. But honestly, I say that, but there are many places where I think that I'm fine with government enforcing rules. Education, honestly, is one of them. We talked about knowledge.
But education, I think, is different because education, it involves underage people who we consider
but
don't
even
have
if
enough
I say
agency.
education, I'm still aware of the risk of having a different government, because I'm saying education because I think children should be exposed to more knowledge and more diverse knowledge and more what people would call like controversial knowledge. But like on the other hand, there could be an ultra-right Christian nationalist government, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and they will enforce like Bibles and pictures of Jesus everywhere, and it's a problem. So my reach is advice. It's like recommendation. I'm fine with like going as far as smoking kills, but it's up to you to decide if you're still going to kill yourself or not. Because I understand the danger of like a government changing and just having total reach in my life.
Specific cases, euthanasia.
What about it?
Should it be illegal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we had a conversation a while ago. Well, not really a conversation, just a small chat. I sent you a video, if you remember, of a guy with like really, really significant body modifications. I think he had horns and like he was a dragon. And like what you said was that you think it should be okay, like legal for this person to do it. But you said that it should be illegal for doctors to perform those kind of operations.
Is that illegal or unethical?
Unethical, but for being unethical, you can lose your license.
Because unethical is why I must have said it. I don't remember saying this.
Okay,
if I must have said it,
could have been unethical. I think it was unethical.
Is do no harm, and a lot of
but you lose your license for that. For doctors, it basically means illegal. You don't go to prison, but you lose your license. That's the end of your career.
I just want to be sure of what I said because I didn't say.
I think it was unethical. Okay.
I didn't say against the law because I don't think that I would think that. Why I said unethical? If I said
what do you think now?
Still unethical, but I think the people can decide to do what they want to do. I still think it's unethical because the first thing is for a doctor is first do no harm.
But who are you to decide?
Let me finish. There is a Hippocratic oath that doctors swear in, not me deciding. There's a Hippocratic oath that doctors swear in, and it's their code of ethics. And this code of ethics says first do no harm. These modifications, they do actually harm your physiology and your biology. So they do change it significantly that cause damage. That's why I said
how's making having horns harm you?
If it wasn't going to harm you, then you would just have it.
You don't have it.
There are many things you have to take in, like it's an implant. You have to cut in the forehead.
Yeah.
The forehead isn't normally cut for good reason. The brain you risk brain damage, you risk infections that could spread to the brain. Implants? You also risk stuff there, but not as much as with this horn implant. You risk actual infection that gets to the brain. You risk real brain damage by getting your horn implants. There are many other things. As much as I think that person's right to get it, but the thing is that why I think it's unethical for doctors is because the harm compared to like the satisfaction that this person will gain, the harm is high. The risk of harm is high. That's why I said it's unethical. But I don't remember ever saying it's illegal.
You definitely said it was unethical. I think you didn't say it should be illegal, but probably unethical.
It's just simply based on harm. That's all.
Well, it doesn't matter what you say. You just said it now. But I think there is some kind of disagreement here because you just said that you're okay with euthanasia, right? So you're okay with people. You're okay with doctors.
That euthanasia is doing harm?
Euthanasia is killing a person. I think
killing a person dying is not always
the
harm.
ultimate harm.
It's not harm. Why? A person dying is not always harm. Death is not always harm.
What is harm?
Well, death. If death is, so if a person has cancer and a person is in constant pain, death is not harm.
If a person has some body dysphoria and they tell you that they need this horn, who are you to decide that this is harm?
I'm not talking about like there's a difference between like, it's not about making a decision if it's harm or not. You're just thinking about the biological implications of it and the physiological
Biological implication of death is ultimate harm.
Yeah, but no, death is a remedy to pain.
Death is a remedy to any emotion, any experience, because it's the absence of experience.
It's just like a lot of people are not just going to kill themselves. Usually people who request euthanasia are in so much pain.
Okay,
and
let's imagine it's a person without a terminal
pain.
disease.
I think it's up to that person to kill themselves, not the doctor. If it's a person without a terminal disease, it's up to the person to kill themselves if they want to die.
You have to justify it.
Yes, you have to justify euthanasia. Euthanasia is not gone. Like, people who are just depressed don't go on as euthanasia.
Why?
Usually it's people who feel the death would release them from the struggle that they're going through.
Why wouldn't you want someone to have an option to kill themselves? Like, in a way that doesn't hurt.
You should take it away from
No, I
them.
mean, you know that the way people commit suicide, honestly, this is crazy. It's just like,
no, I'm
you
not
jump
saying you should,
off
I'm not saying you should
a
not have an
building,
option. I just don't think
suffocate yourself.
I'm speaking
this is fucking
based
nuts.
on like what my understanding of doctors' ethics, and I'm not saying I'm against it. I've changed my mind about suicide in many ways. Like, I see suicide as a decision, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I do see it as that. But nevertheless, I'm just thinking of
why can't you
doctors.
consent to it? Okay, not doctor. Let's say any human, not only doctor.
What?
If someone asks me to help them to kill them, like, why would it be a crime for me? And this is a crime in most countries.
I don't think it's a crime if somebody asks me to.
So you would call it unethical, according to for doctors?
Yes,
and they should
for doctors, because
lose
they
the license.
I'm not. They should argue why they should keep their license, but it is a breaking of a doctor's code of ethics to kill someone for whom it would not be relief.
But who decides whether it is a relief or not?
There are many kind of a terminal disease is what usually is thought of as this, where there is a lot of physical pain. If someone is depressed, there is a cure for it. It is a hard thing, but there is a cure for depression. It's not unachievable. There is a way to help the patient that does not involve killing them. If someone has a terminal disease and is in constant excruciating pain, it is a mercy to help the person die easily. I'm not saying that the person shouldn't have the right to ask for suicide. I'm fine.
You can ask for anything.
I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, based on what I understand of doctor's code of ethics, it would be considered unethical. It's up to the doctor to argue why it isn't unethical.
We can change the code.
Not to do harm. It's too risky because a lot of doctors are not
people consent to it.
Good people.
Well, okay, my opinion, if you ask for it. My opinion, no, we're not wrapping up. My opinion. Now, regarding depressed people. So let's take a situation when a person is under effect, like they just lost someone really close to them, and they can't imagine, or like, I don't know, their partner left them, and they can't imagine their life without them, and they just think, okay, my life is gonna end. Like, I can't imagine my life without continuing. I can't imagine myself being happy. We can treat it as a temporary condition because we think that, okay, from experience, we know that most likely in like 95+% of cases, people will get better, and they, in the future, in 1 year, they will want to leave. And that's why we decide, okay, we will not allow them to kill themselves because this is a temporary condition, and the baseline, the base value of those people is they want to live. It's just that temporarily they are very upset. Then, like, coming back to depression, it's like the question is, we can treat these people the same way. Like, depression can be treated in most cases,
okay,
right? But then not in all cases. And then I guess for me the question is, how many lines of treatment do you have to go for you to be allowed to commit a suicide, to be permitted to commit euthanasia?
Suicide is a decision, and unfortunately,
Euthanasia, like medical.
Well, this is the thing: is that when suicide is a decision that you make, like you think that it is best for you to not live anymore. If you want to commit euthanasia, you have to add people to this decision. You are involving other parties.
So is it a burden for those people?
Yeah, I'm going to get to what I'm saying. But yes, so you are adding other parties to this decision in that situation. Yes, it is people kill themselves in quite horrible ways. But nevertheless, if you want to kill yourself and you want another person to be involved, you have to convince them that they should be involved in the killing of yourself. And for that, I'm sorry, the burden is on you to make people understand why it is impossible to cure you. Not why, but that it is impossible to cure you. As far as the lines of treatment, yes, exhaust every line of treatment before killing a person, before accepting to involve yourself in the suicide of another person. I accept it as a decision, but I accept it as that person's decision, not my decision as a physical health worker.
What I suggest is not that a doctor has an obligation to perform the procedure. I think they can refuse. I'm fine with that. I just think that it shouldn't be unethical and let alone illegal to do it.
I think
we will find doctors who will do it for money or whatever. They will do it.
You have to create too much like caveats for first do no harm. I think it's fine that it's unethical, but what I do think is that
doctors will not do it if it's unethical.
I think that it's fine that it's unethical because it's first do no harm. It's not necessarily unethical. It's unethical based on what you consider harm. Honestly,
exactly.
It's quite open to conclusion. But then it's the doctor's position, and the doctor should defend themselves as to why what they did was not unethical. Why it was ethical, it's the doctor's responsibility to defend themselves. So I'm fine with the doctor doing that, but I'm just saying according to ethics, it is harmful to life.
Why can't we change ethics?
What do you want to change it to? You want to remove the do no harm
the consent
part? Because it's just do harm consensually?
Do harm consensually there should be more nuance to it.
See.
Like I don't know how to put it, but there should be some, again, with this example with depression, if it is temporary, if you know that this is a temporary thing, then it's fine to provide them treatment and not allow euthanasia. But if you know that this is how it goes, if you know that this is a decision that the person made in being in consciousness and being, I don't know what's the appropriate wording for this, but knowing what they're doing basically, then you can't really decide for them. How, even coming back to cancer treatment, there are always some kinds of treatment. You know that, there's first line of treatment, second, third, fourth, yes, but then there is always this experimental line of treatment that we haven't really tested it, but maybe it's gonna work. And it could work, but it could work. There is always a chance that it's gonna work. There's always a chance.
What I said you should use.
But who is gonna decide when it's enough to fight? I think the person should decide.
Okay.
I won.
It's an argument that you're making that it doesn't make sense because a person decides, but the person is involving another person in their decision.
No, but there are people who can.
Wait, no, stop. A healthcare worker is not a suicide helper.
But many of them could do that function.
Finish.
Go ahead.
A healthcare worker is a healthcare worker. In the definition of them is to make your health and your well-being better. If you decide that your pain is too much for you to continue, you go to a healthcare worker. You want to involve that person in your suicide because you don't want your suicide to be as gruesome as suicides are in many cases, or you don't want to take the responsibility of killing yourself because it's hard for you. You cannot expect, I'm sorry, I don't think it is right, in my opinion, to have some kind of policy that compels doctors to do this.
Not compelled, just doesn't make it illegal, it doesn't make
when
it
you
unethical.
don't make it illegal, you
don't compel it.
No, what
you can do it, but
let me finish. When you don't make it unethical, what you do is you give that person who is asking for suicide a right to say, "How dare you refuse my offer?"
You say,
my demand.
You say, "Hey, it's not illegal. You don't have you don't have an obligation
Also,
to do it, but it's not illegal."
First, do no harm. You don't have.
Okay, would it be okay for? Okay, I don't care if it's doctors who do it, healthcare professionals who do it. We could have euthanasia services. Would it be okay with that?
I don't care what I'm talking. We're talking about
euthanasia services with
I don't care.
different code of conduct.
I don't care what that happens, how it happens. We're talking about doctors here. You cannot involve a person who doesn't want to be willfully involved in your suicide to be in your suicide.
But you don't have an obligation to do it. It's not illegal to do it, but you don't have an obligation to do it. Those are different things.
Kill yourself if you want to kill yourself.
No, but it's hard to fucking kill yourself.
Well, it is a decision that you're making. You want to be responsible for your own decision.
No, but you don't want to suffer when you kill yourself.
Then don't kill yourself.
Then maybe give me an option to kill myself, not suffering.
I'm not even against euthanasia, but I'm against making it another person's responsibility to take the decision that you don't want
responsibility.
No, let me finish. That you don't want it. Let me finish. I am against, regardless of what you're doing. If you want to kill yourself, that is fine. Kill yourself because it is hard.
But if you find someone who is willing...
Can I finish?
You can finish, but you finished many times already.
So, if you want to kill yourself, it's fine. Do that. It's a decision that you have made. But don't expect another person to be responsible for your decision. If you cannot bring yourself to do it, I don't really care if a doctor does it, honestly, because I'm fine with terminally ill patients and a doctor doing it. And then it's the doctor's position to try to defend themselves as to why they had to do it. Do that. I don't think a doctor should lose their license immediately. I think they should argue. They should defend themselves.
The burden of proof should be on the doctor.
Yes, they should defend themselves on why they thought that medically.
No one will do it then.
Then don't expect other people to be responsible for your decisions. If you feel, and you say, yes, there are bad ways to kill yourself, there are also easy ways to kill yourself. If you believe...
What is an easy way to kill yourself that is available for everyone?
Overdosing.
Like, do you know how many people don't actually overdose? That they go to hospital?
Yeah.
So, how's that easy? If what 80% of the time people survive when they overdose.
No, overdose in an isolated place and don't call anybody. Don't let call someone to you. That's it. Nobody will save you and you'll die. But no, it's not my point. My point is this. You don't put another person responsible for something as killing yourself.
If they give consent to it.
This is a part of thing. A big part of it is this. Well, if a doctor wants to do it, as I've said, it is fine. Do it. Just
but
you have
don't
to
you see how if you make it unethical, if the burden of proof is on a doctor, no one will do it because they're risking their career for it.
It's risky to make it ethical because you don't understand what do no harm involves. There are a lot of doctors that actually want to do harm.
There are?
Yes.
Why?
You have a lot of bodies in the hospital. You have a lot of organs in the hospital. There are doctors that prioritize money over actual health of people. It is a problem.
How does it give them money?
What do you mean? How does it give them money?
Like euthanizing people, how that give you the money?
If a person is depressed and young, they have viable organs. If they're just depressed, they have viable
do they
organs.
sell these organs? Do doctors sell organs?
Do you know that people pay for surgeries? If you have a private practice,
pay for surgery,
you can get someone connected to a hospital.
I feel like surgeons, they always have a job. I don't know. Okay, would you be okay with euthanasia services?
When you're asking me, would you be okay with? I don't care what people do with their lives. I don't care.
It's not about life. It's about government. It's about legal legislation.
I don't care about euthanasia services if they want to exist or not. I'm just saying, like, if somebody wants to do it, as I said with the doctors, they're fine. But doctors have a code of ethics and they have to defend themselves with regards to the code of ethics. If another person on the street, if your sister, if you want to kill yourself and you ask your sister for help and she helps you, I don't care.
So
it's both of you guys' decision.
Should the sister be punished?
I don't care. No. Why? It doesn't matter. You ask for it.
Right now, do you acknowledge that it is illegal?
It's illegal for people to kill people. That's what I said in the beginning. I don't really care. But I'm talking about
killing, but
doctors.
Just helping them to kill
I'm talking
themselves.
about doctors. There is an ethics. And I don't think they should lose their license. I don't think they should go to prison. No, you said
they should.
But they should defend themselves as to why that
and in many cases, they will lose. because the code.
No, stop. It doesn't mean that they will lose.
No, but
because
in your interpretation of the code of
their
conduct,
defense is why that was life-affirming care. That's all.
But in your interpretation, they will
The
most
code
likely
is don't
lose.
do harm. What you have to do is explain why that was not harm.
No doctor will risk their career. Like 1% of doctors will risk
fine.
their career.
Why should a doctor be expected to risk their career for that? To do it? Why?
Oh, that's why they shouldn't be put in that position.
No, they should be put in a position where their number one rule is don't do harm. Because doctors can do harm.
Okay. We faced an unexpected fundamental disagreement.
What do you want from this? It's a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Don't do harm. It's a simple thing.
It is a simple thing.
Does something, and I'm not against
But
euthanasia.
my question is, who decides what harm is?
The doctor can explain. A doctor gets
So
it happens
doctors
all the time.
Doctors.
It's not like it's such a rare thing. Doctors make decisions during surgeries. Doctors make quick decisions, and then they have to defend their decisions. It's not a thing that people don't do. Doctors do commit euthanasia, and if they have to, they can defend their decision.
Okay.
So it's not so rare. It's not that they will lose. It depends on who they are defending it to, definitely. But I don't think that it's a problem to defend your decision. But according to the ethics policy that is in place, you do have to defend your decision. That's it. And if you're going to commit suicide, I don't think you should put it on another person to be responsible for your suicide. That's it.
Okay. I disagree, but let's wrap it up here.